So, on this subject that he just raised of whether the Electoral College should be abolished, my next guest says, differently than my last, yes. Doug McAdam is a professor of sociology at Stanford University and co-author of Deeply Divided: Racial Politics and Social Movements in America. Professor, respond to Mr. Suprin.
Well, I also think if we are going to revisit this issue, it ought to be going forward. I don't think, obviously, we should change the results of the election that was conducted under the rules as set forth. I think there's a real issue, though, with the ultimate utility of the Electoral College at this point in time. There's no principle that's more fundamental to a democratic theory of governance than the principle of political equality. That is, regardless of race, creed, color, material circumstances, the views of every citizen should be weighted equally. In an electoral college system, every vote certainly doesn't count equally. The votes that happen to be cast in battleground states, the half a dozen states that decide elections, clearly count much more than votes in safe Republican or safe Democratic states. That seems to me to really fly in the face of this central principle of political equality. We also, as we sort of grow up in this country and we vote in all sorts of lesser elections, the principle of majority rule seems to prevail in virtually every other election. I don't understand why, at this point in time, we continue to adhere to a system that, again, undermines, in my view, the principle of political equality and simply doesn't follow the straightforward logic of majority rule.
You certainly know all the arguments that get advanced in support of keeping the Electoral College. I don't have time to run through all, but a favorite is the problematic recount. In other words, if we had the situation that we had on our hands in 2000, where the popular vote margin seems like it was much closer than it will be from last Tuesday, how do you go about a recount in all 50 states instead of just isolating on a particular state integral to the Electoral College?
Yeah, I still think that's a tractable issue. I think given modern technology, even a recount in a very, very close race should not undermine the ability to do that. So I don't really see that as a really credible argument. I should say, by the way, people say, well, this is the way we've always done it. In point of fact, the logic of the Electoral College as set forth by Hamilton and Madison and others was that the voting citizens, that is propertied white males, would elect a set of electors, really upstanding citizens, who themselves would decide who the president was going to be. They were not to be bound by the popular vote in their states. So we've moved very far away from the system as it was originally envisioned.
Professor McAdam, thank you so much for your expertise. I appreciate your book as well.
Thank you, Michael.
When you're wrong,